Our hope and prayer for this podcast is that our content will meet you right where you are and leave a spark that only God can fan based on His Word. We will give credit where credit is due when we remember. Most of our content is based on our life experiences and training, not to be substituted for the Word of God in your life.
Welcome to the Connected Heart Podcast. We are two Christian women
Here to laugh, have some fun, and engage in authentic conversations that lean into the power of connecting with God.
because thinking about God and thinking with God are not the same things.
This is Daniel, producer of the Connected Heart podcast. During the shooting of this and other episodes, we had some camera trouble, which is why at some point in this conversation, you might just get captions and audio. That being said, I really hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for tuning in.
Okay, ready, set, go. Okay. Welcome to the Connected Heart Podcast. We are thrilled you're back to join us, and we have a special guest with us today that you'll get to meet, and we're pretty excited that we got to 10 episodes.
Absolutely. And the exciting thing about that is 10 is that number of completeness in the Bible.
Okay, well, I thought it was 7.
Well,
was
I think it's
perfection.
10.
I don't know. We might want to check that. We might
might have to check that.
I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm pretty excited that we got to 10.
I know, right?
And my goal was if at least 100 people listened, then we'd continue. So Sandi thought I kind of threw that under the bus, but I was pretty excited.
Well, honestly, after we've talked about goal setting, our guest is going to really lead us in that today. But you and I talked about our love for goal setting or lack thereof. So, I mean, we've got to always set goals that we know we can reach.
That's
so,
true.
I mean, you were actually brilliant once again, Martha.
Once again. I love it. Well, I did want to share a morning walk because I had a great morning walk with the Lord. And I'm walking along, and I look down at the sidewalks, and there are arrows in sidewalk chalk on all of these. I mean, it wasn't just 1 or 2. It was a lot of arrows to follow. And I started really getting excited. I was like, her name, little Holly, had written on the sidewalk and had drawn these arrows. And there were about 10 arrows. And I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to be at the end of the arrows. And it was a hopscotch. And it was kind of small. But of course I had to do it because you just can't not do it.
Well, after all that anticipation.
Well, that was the thing, the whole growing that anticipation. And so I thought that was a great lead-in for today to talk about goal setting. And unless you have a curious question.
Well, I have a curious question, but I'm not sure it fits in with our topic.
Okay, well.
But I mean, it might, because someone's goal could fit in with this.
Okay.
If the world is a stage.
Yes.
Where does the audience sit?
Okay.
I know, right?
I know. It's a curious question, which makes our listeners think.
On the floor.
Oh.
We're hearing from the outside world.
Must be the Holy Spirit. That
The
says
Holy
Spirit on the floor.
Oh, interesting.
That'll be good. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our guest. Our guest is Raelyn Van Pelt, and Raelyn is an executive coach. She's a corporate chaplain, and she's a certified brain health coach. Now, she is a real live native of San Antonio, and she will testify to that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you will. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's worked and ministered in San Antonio for over 30 years. I mean, really a lifetime. But and so it's a privilege to call her my friend. She's also my accountability partner. She knows all of the secrets, so I'm a little worried. But most of all, that she's my sister in Christ. So I am. And here's the thing. Raelyn loves this goal setting thing and vision and looking out, and she's so good at it that I felt like she should probably be our guest because you and I don't love it.
Well, I love the visioning part, so I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that.
Okay.
And I'm big on some other things you're going to talk about. It's that goal setting that kind of trips me up a little bit.
Yeah.
So
it trips a lot of people up.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
I feel squeezed by it. So
Sure.
I'm anxious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
You know, it's my most favorite time of the year. 'Tis the season. But it is fun. You know, Jesus comes into the picture and he's asking these questions. What do you want? I don't think a lot of people can even answer that question. What do I want? And that's where vision casting can come in. It forces you to sit down. I mean, it's if Jesus is sitting right next to you and he says, what do you want? What do you want me to do for you? That's kind of hard to get around in the different areas. You know, maybe there's something going on in your life where I want to get well or I want to get debt free or something like that. But how do you do it? How do you do that? And that's where you've got to sit down with yourself and have some really hard conversations with just you and say, I don't know what I want. I want to sit down and figure out what I want. And there's so many scriptures. One of the things that I do with my corporate offices is we do vision boards. I know you may have done them in school where you got remember these things called magazines?
Yes.
Before online became the magazine.
Yeah, you'd get these paper things in the mail and you'd flip through them and you go, oh, I want to look like that, or I want that, or I want a new car, I want, all those things, and you'd plaster them up on a board or, on your poster board and take them in and tell the people. Well, I think that's a lost art. I think that if the people in the corporations, what I have them do is sit down and I have them think about, what do you want? Start with that question and think about the areas of what that's going to look like. There's career, there's personal, there's so many different areas.
Yeah.
I like to narrow it down to really the three areas of the physical. And that pretty much entails, your body, your physical space. Physical space meaning we're going to need to get a new car. So financially, I'm going to need to sit down and figure out how we're going to be able to do that. Those kind of things. And even hobbies. People don't have fun like they used to, or too much fun. But there's a balance in there. And the other one, we've had a really tough time, I think, in our world with the emotional piece of it. So what about the mental health? What do you want your world to look like there?
Yeah.
And the third one, and mental health would be something like those relationships. Is there a relationship that needs a little more attention than you've been giving? What does that look like? How do you do it? What do you plan on doing? Becoming more self-aware, staying in that presence of listening to what God is telling you. Paying real close attention to that. Being curious. Just staying really curious. And then that third section for me, and for most of the clients I work with, is the spiritual side.
Yeah.
What do you need to work on there? And that can be anything from, I want to read my Bible. I want to go to church.
Right.
I want to meditate. And you take those areas and you really pinpoint what you want that to look like and start working toward it. By the end of the year, you really feel great about it. The vision casting is so important, I think, for families even to do. You get to hear what's important in your family's life.
Right. And so many people, I know for me that a lot of the times it's just such a big ask, to really sit down and do it. And I've done vision boards before and I love doing them, but it's the consistency that sometimes trips me up. But I love doing them because I love, I think like that. But it's the trying to keep on track where it doesn't feel like such drudgery because, but you have reasons for this.
I'll tell you, Raelyn, though, the question that you threw out there, because of the story it comes from in the Bible, is such a powerful question in the context of where it is in the Bible, right? And if I'm not mistaken, the person was blind, and the obvious answer everyone thought. I mean, when Jesus asked the question, "What do you want?" it seems so. Why are you asking this? So redundant or something.
See.
I want to see. But that's not what he's asking.
Right.
He's asking, what do you really want? And I'm not sure that's a question we ask ourselves as we transition from one year to the next. We may, in light of a vision board. I think for me, the vision board has been more, yay, we get to cut out pictures and do arts and crafts, as opposed to asking myself the depth of that question. I have a coaching wheel I like to start with. That's a life wheel where you can gauge your satisfaction in different aspects of your life, which would include finances, relationships, different things, right? And I start by first gauging my level of satisfaction, but I'm going to add your question. What do I want in light of what you want me to have, Lord Jesus?
Yes.
Right.
And that's so key.
Yeah.
What we want and then what he wants for us.
Well, I think, when he's asking the question, do you think Jesus knows what he wants? I think he probably does. I think he probably knows the guy wants to see.
Sure.
Why ask?
Right.
He wants us to verbalize it.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yes.
My perspective of that is he wants to hear. Our Father wants to hear our heart. And to put it down and to get serious with the life he's given me, given us, I don't want to waste it. The hourglass, we're all about the same age. The sand is a little lower.
Yes, in the lower
so
section.
Much there in the top.
Yeah.
So I want to use what's left and make it count. I'm not saying pack your day with things to do. That's not really planning. It's not really planning. That's just staying busy. And busyness is, what does it stand for? Being under Satan's yoke?
Yeah.
We don't want that.
No.
But we do want to take a path. I mean, I take, right now, if you were to see my table, I've got 23 calendar, this year calendar, and then Christmas new calendar,
She gets so
I get so excited about the new planners.
Yes, the new planners, yes.
And they've gotten smaller as my season of life has changed. And the way that you plan changes over time. So, retirement, what does that look like? You were saying that you recently retired, but you sound like you're pretty busy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we stay pretty busy. And so many people who don't have planning like that and goal setting and vision casting keeps your purpose in the forefront so that you're not floating around wondering what to do next, and why am I here? And all those questions come up. Yeah. To me, vision casting and getting some steps or goals, whatever word you want to put on that, to achieve that solidifies your identity, which is what y'all have been talking a great deal about. My identity is wrapped up in my core values, and it's wrapped up in my purpose. And not to know that keeps people talk about mental health issues. Why am I here? Who am I? And as coaches in this room, how many times have you heard somebody say, I don't even know why I'm here?
Right. And one of the things that I had struggled with early on in my walk was, well, if we're supposed to do everything, this day, the Lord gives you this much manna for that day. This, what does he have for me today? Just sit and wait. Or, well, if I plan too much, So I really struggled with that of do I plan too much and then I charge in, or, leaving the space for God. You and I have talked about this, that was one of the things that I struggled with for so long. It's just like, listen, I have this to-do list, but I really wasn't aiming at anything because I would just want God to bless what I was doing and,
Yeah. Well, going back to the garden when Jesus knows what's ahead of him and he says, do I really need to go through all this suffering? Not my will, but yours. We need to hold our plans loosely because we may feel quite certain that this is where the will of God is. And sometimes life pulls the rug right out from underneath your feet. And now you have to go, okay, wait a minute. Now, it's the voices in our head then where we've got to sit down and kind of reestablish, okay, maybe that wasn't the direction, or maybe that wasn't the timing. But if you don't have some form of spiritual vision, you won't slow down long enough to ask those questions. You won't stay within his presence to get that readjustment, to get take that path, a different path of what, maybe getting to the same goal, but it doesn't look like you saw it. He sees it differently.
So it sounds to me like you're talking about visioning as being a broad thing that you do in the visioning aspect of all of this. And then that's more spacious, if you will, so that then you can fill in the details.
Right. I remember I planned I just think it's kind of fun. It doesn't always work out. But I remember one of my mentors, spiritual mentors, looked at my calendar. He said, when do you want to get together next? And he said, Monday. I said, oh, I can't do it Monday, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, what about next Wednesday? I can't do it Wednesday. And he reached over and he closed the book and he goes, you need more white on your calendar.
Yeah.
And I've never forgotten that. And I think sometimes us planners need a little more white on our calendar, and then the busy ones need a little more substance on their calendar to get them to what it is they really want,
right,
and to focus.
And focus.
Good, Martha. Yeah.
on the goal setting. Where this is where you and I, we'll get the vision and I get all excited, and I love doing that. And then it's like, okay, now you have to narrow it down to these bite-sized pieces, as they say. And that's where, I would always just drop the ball. It's just like, okay, fine, and I let the vision do all the heavy lifting. It just hung there.
Yeah.
So how do you get people to, once they've set the goal or set the vision and gotten their vision, to set those goals and to set up those steps, and how the Lord looks at that, how you think he looks at that?
Well, accountability is a piece of it. I've got a dear friend who holds me accountable to things that keep me on track. A little help. Have you ever, you're going to plan a big vacation and you sit there and you booked your travel, you've got your hotel, your flights, you're packing, you're repacking, you're getting you got your list of things to do, all for this wonderful trip. That's a piece of cake. It's exciting. What if we looked at life like that?
Yeah.
What if we looked at life like that? It is exciting. It can be.
Yes.
And I think God really wants us to write it down. I think he wants us to figure out what it is we really want and work towards that. Make appointments. I do this. I will make an appointment with me. And I'll look at it and I'll go, oh, I can't do that on Wednesday afternoon at 4 because I've already got an appointment. Well, that's a time for me to sit down and go, how are you doing? I don't know if it's weekly for you, if it's monthly, but at some point you have to do some quality checks on how am I doing with that. Is that still important? Did something change?
Yeah.
We'll move it. The vision boards keep it in front of your face. And so I think for whether it's in the offices or in personal life, to have that vision board where you can keep looking at it and look at your calendar and see how aligned they are. Because if I've got nothing but golf on my calendar, well, I don't see golf on my vision board. You know?
Yeah.
Or maybe your vision board is only golf, and maybe you're a little out of balance there.
Very out of balance,
right?
Yeah.
And so I think that having that well-rounded vision board too, like you said, you had 3 categories that you thought about, right? And in advance you planned for those 3 categories, or you visioned what those would be like for the year. I love that you're talking about that as a yearly thing. And yeah, I might resurrect that old, I might not have as many magazines as I used to, and we don't get the, the Christmas wish books like we used to when we were children, but I mean, you could download a picture from the internet, or you could do some other things, cut out. You could draw it yourself, or you could do all kinds of things that would support that old school, what I would call the old school vision board,
Right.
where I get to get out my glue stick and put it on something where it's that visual and that reminder. I like that.
And again, a lot of people are doing them on Pinterest, that kind of thing, where it's on their computer screen and they can see it. It's theirs. Everything is personal now, and that's so great. But again, where it's keeping that in check of, is this what I want? And he knows the desires of my heart. And what if that's not in his plan?
He probably has something better in mind.
Okay. Yeah. Better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having Scripture tells us that plans fail for lack of counsel, right? So when you are doing a vision board and you are setting your goals, who's impacted by that? And having, good friends that you can share that with and hold you accountable to some of those things. It's such a huge push to keep you motivated. If I know somebody's going to ask me, hey, how are you doing on so-and-so? I may do it on the final hour, but I'm going to get it in.
That wasn't a dig, was it?
No.
I just wanted to.
Now, I will say my challenge with goal setting is a little different than yours. I can get to that step by step and that one little thing. My problem happens sometimes in the visioning, because I get so many ideas and I want to do so many different things that then I have trouble just making it a little simpler. Because I can be a little too...
Isn't that where life coaching comes in?
Absolutely. So you mean I need a coach?
We have to have somebody help us untangle the cray-cray in our head, you know? Because there's so much stuff that sometimes we really want or think we want. And if you've got somebody to ask you some deeper questions, maybe you can figure out what's really important and why it's important.
Sure.
It's the why behind. Why do I want that new car? Or why do I want to get my health back? You know, why? You write those why answers down.
Yeah. And I'm even thinking some how questions. How will this align with my God-given purpose?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
How will this be an expression of what God's called me to do?
Yeah.
As opposed to just being my own personal bucket list.
Right.
Because I can have a lot of buckets.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yes, we can. We can. And I think sometimes we get too many buckets going.
yeah.
I was with a client yesterday, and she came running out with her new planner, and I got so excited with her, you know. And she,
Are you sure you weren't a school teacher? We
Yeah,
all
oh,
really love
honestly,
that phase
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Don't ever take me in a, office supply store. Yeah.
It's so fun. But anyway, she comes running out, and so we're talking, and she says, I just don't know what I bring to the table. I don't know what special talents do I really have for this team. And we sat and talked about that, and I've given her some tasks to do. But just to get that seed planted where she's going to start thinking about it and really dissecting that. Now there's some follow-up. So the next week when I come out, we pick up where we left off. But she's got about 6 days to think about that, And so having somebody to come around, that's where both of y'all being life coaches, you can really help people get out of that slump.
Right. And it's what do we bring to God's table? Right? What do we bring? It's like, Lord, I'm not sure, but I'm going to ask you. That's so many times, and Raelyn and I've talked about this a lot, about asking him directly and then waiting. And then somebody will make a comment about, you're such an encourager, or you're this, or I appreciate this about you, where you would have never, hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
So planting the seed and having that direction, and because he really does, he knows, and he'll guide us.
He always has.
He has, and he prepares us. That's the thing, where God never just leaves us with nothing. He always prepares us. Again, I don't think we see it till the end a lot of times, where I'll go like, wow, he was preparing me for this, and I didn't even know it.
We're back to the potter's wheel now.
Oh, yeah.
He's cutting us off.
He's cutting us off and throwing us back in the water. So,
throwing us back in the water.
That's
Hey,
good.
so Martha was telling me that you have a practice about the word of the year?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna preface this by, Raelyn and I have been friends for a lot of years, and I actually stole this from her with clients, but it was for clients, not for me personally.
Oh, I see.
But somebody didn't see it that way.
Okay.
And so, Raelyn, why don't you tell us about the word of the year?
So I currently live on a river, at the Frio River, actually. And they have the most beautiful stones. So I go out, and it's that time of year
to pick up your river stones.
to go get my river rocks, and I write a word on them. And my family is already dreading this, but
Maybe your friends too, but no. I'm in mine today.
But I still have, now I have people that call me and ask me about it, but I write a word on the year. Maybe it's joy, maybe it's love. I mean, I've got over 100 and some odd words that I write on these rocks.
Wow.
And I have a big bag, and sometimes I ask them to pray about, what do you think God's asking you this year?
Yes.
And it's just one word. And for that word is what you look at every day, and maybe it's consistent, maybe it's presence, whatever it is. Mine this year was truth. And just truth in everything. So it's a little rock. You can put it in your pocket. You set it on your desk. I can walk through some of my clients, and I see their rocks all piled up for 10 years. And then it's got their word on it. So I will follow up periodically in the year and say, how are you? Yeah, kind of a lot. And I'll say, how are you doing on fun? How are you doing on loving better? Or whatever that is. And it keeps kind of at the end of the year, how'd you do? I never looked at my rock. Or, I love this.
Yeah.
I mean, from one extreme to the other.
And it's hard to come up with your word. This is what I'm just saying I might have been harassed about. It's like, what's your word? What's your word this year? And I'll go I'm praying about it. I haven't gotten my word yet. Well, and trust me, as a little accountability partner, did you get your word? What's your word? So I know she's just itching to put it on a rock. I showed Sandi mine yesterday, because mine this year for 2024 has been consistency.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, that's why you just slipped it in there. I love it. So, but I do keep it on my desk. And all the times that I think okay, we're not going to do the podcast, or, this didn't work out, so, just forget it. I'll think consistency. And, the thing that's cool about it is once you get the word, then you start hearing it everywhere.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, that's just confirmation. That's my word this year. So that's why I'm so excited about episode 10, because our pastor's like, well, you got to be consistent. So we were consistent. We got to 10.
Got to 10.
We got to
There
10.
it is.
So there would be
Fun.
a goal that I used my word of the year. But she does get a little bossy about the word of the year when
Some
you don't
people
get it
can't
right
come
away.
up with the words, so that's when I put them in a big bag, and I have them pray that God will guide their hand to pick the word. And so they picked. I will think of every obstacle,
There you
and
go.
we will overcome it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Kind of like open the Bible and drop your finger.
Exactly.
No, I'm a
Yep.
big word of the year fan. I've done that for years as well.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to make sure we didn't skip that in this episode because I wasn't sure that Martha loved it quite as much as you
No,
and I.
I do. I just love it's just hard when you have a pushy accountability partner. It's a little hard.
Even though
you love her. Yeah.
Some call it life coaches.
Some call it pushy.
Some call it life coaches. Yeah. There we go.
There it is.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we're going to wrap it up here. Okay. You want to wrap us up? Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
As we kind of finalize our day together, what's one tip you'd give us to set ourselves up for a great year?
Well, I think the very first tip is to set an appointment with yourself and Jesus and ask him, what do I want? He knows. Maybe you don't. We don't. But ask him what it is you want and just block out a whole hour and listen and write down what he's putting on your heart. And, maybe another tip would be word of the year. If you took one word and maybe that word was trust, what would happen if every day when you woke up, trust was the first thing that you said? And with every interaction and every conversation you had, trust was what you leaned into, And I think it makes a difference at the end. I think it makes a difference at the end of the year. I think reflecting back and really looking at what happened, and that's why I have the previous year's calendar, which is a little wonky, but you want to look back, reflect back, get present, and go to the future, past, present, and future.
Wow.
Your whole life.
Well, that's 3 great tips in a row, right?
Oh.
Just putting that word before yourself in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's because what you focus on grows.
that's right.
And so focusing on what God gives you to guide you.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you, Raelyn, for coming and spending some time with us. Anybody that would like to contact Raelyn, her contact information will be in the show notes. And we are grateful and ready to go get our word of the year
And your calendars,
and our calendars.
your planners.
Our planners.
And make an appointment with yourself.
Yourself and God. Love
Thank
it.
you so much.
Thank y'all so much.
Thanks.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Love it.